Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this section of the Bhagavatam describes certain very important principles for begetting good children, good progeny. The title of the chapter itself indicates that there is a certain consideration how to beget good children. This chapter title says Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Because Diti combined with her husband at the wrong time, so therefore the result was 2 demons were born from her womb. So it is not accidental that some particular kind of child is born to particular parents. It is very clearly explained in the scriptures that the parents can prepare themselves to beget good children. And that is the whole principle of samskara. Srila Prabhupada says samskara means cultural purification. And such samskara is generally observed by the upper 3 classes or varnas: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas. The Shudras are generally described as asamskrita. They generally don't observe the samskaras observed by the upper 3 classes. Of course, Shudras also have some minimum samskara because they are not so very intelligent. So therefore, they cannot observe many samskaras. So they have the minimum samskaras. Those who don't have any samskara, totally not having any samskara, they are outside the varnashrama classification. They are called Chandala, 5th class, and below, 6th class, 7th class. Narad Muni describes this in the 7th canto. It is given all these lower classes of people who are totally asamskrita. They don't have any samskara. Whereas even Shudras, they have some samskaras and they are to be guided. In fact, all the sections of the human society are to be guided by qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana is the head of the Varnashrama institution. So they are guided by a qualified Brahmana to observe the proper samskaras. Then only there can be a proper civilized society. Civilized society means people are following the Vedic injunctions under proper guidance by a qualified Brahmana. And there is no question of any caste system coming in where there is possibility of exploitation. Because the Brahmana who is qualified, he identifies people according to their guna karma, which particular class they belong to. So those who are qualified to actually take training as a brahmachari are the upper 3 classes: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. So such Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishya generally take birth in Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya families. But there could be an exception. There could be an exception. In a Shudra family, there might be a child which is born, which is actually having some Brahmanical qualities or Kshatriya qualities or Vaishya qualities. Possible. Sometimes it happens. Then such a candidate is identified by a qualified Brahmana. Is identified by a qualified Brahmana. And is given proper training. It's not that simply identifying is enough. No. Or merely birth is enough. No. Just like somebody is admitted to Gurukul, but if they are not, they're born in a Brahmin family, but they are not having that quality to be trained, to be educated as a Brahmana, then he is not trained or educated as a Brahmana. The Gurukul teacher will find him unsuitable. And accordingly, if he is suitable to be trained as a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, he'll be accordingly trained. If he is not fit for any of those, then he has to be trained as a Shudra. He has to learn some skill, some lower thing which anybody can actually learn for his livelihood, for his maintenance. He can do that. Otherwise, it is strictly by quality. It is not just by birth. Of course, if the birth is in a proper family where the culture is followed, the samskaras are followed, generally, one born in a Brahmin family will have Brahminical qualities. But when there is Varna Sankara, that is, somebody, there is Anuloma and Pratiloma Vivaha, marriage, where a proper husband is selected for a proper girl, a proper woman. So that is also done according to the quality. The quality. Generally, those who are Brahmanically inclined, they marry a girl of a suitable quality, a suitable inclination or suitable training or suitable upbringing. So this is very carefully done, because such wrong combinations of a woman and a man leads to Varna Sankara population, mixed population. So that's why you see in Kali Yuga, because there's no proper combination of man and woman, therefore there are all kinds of mixtures. You cannot say somebody has all the Brahmanical qualities or inclinations. They may have some Brahmanical qualities, they may also have some Kshatriya qualities, they may also have some Vaishya qualities. All mixed up. And because the Garbhadana samskara is not observed by majority of the people, therefore the Shastra says, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. Should understand this very carefully. Why it is said, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. It's not because everybody has only got qualities of Shudra. No, that is not the reason. It is because the upper three classes, Varnas, are supposed to follow the samskaras. And the first samskara is Garbhadana samskara. If somebody does not follow the Garbhadana samskara, then there is no proper childbirth. There is no proper child which is born of such a combination. Without that samskara, the purification, necessary purification has not happened. As I explained yesterday, for those of you who missed, in ISKCON, Prabhupada says that Grihasthas must follow this Garbhadana samskara. What does it mean? The husband and wife prepare their consciousness to receive a particular soul, to give shelter to a particular soul, who can be trained up as a devotee. This is the whole idea of Grihastha within a devotee community. So what do? They chant 50 rounds before combining. The husband and wife, before combining, they chant 50 rounds, 50. Both, the husband and the wife, they chant 50 rounds. And they pray to the Supreme Lord that they may actually have a good child who can be trained up as a first-class devotee. This is the whole preparation. This is the samskara. As far as devotees are concerned, this is samskara. Then there will be good children who will be born as first-class devotees, nice devotees, and they can be trained up. They still have to be trained up. It's not enough. Garbharan samskara is not enough. Still, they have to be trained up. But even the training is very difficult if the inclination is not there to get trained up. The inclination is not that difficult to train up. Still, Srila Prabhupada says, if somebody can be trained up by a bona fide spiritual master, then can be by properly chanting Hare Krishna and under the careful guidance of a pure devotee spiritual master, anyone can actually become a devotee. That is also there. But still, the impetus for getting trained as a nice devotee is given at the time before birth itself. So these things are all finer aspects of our scriptures and Vedic culture, which is missed out in our modern society. In our present day society, these things are missed out. Even though people have some rituals, have some samskaras, but still some of the important samskaras are missed out because they are somehow having some kind of sentiment for belonging to a particular community or caste or whatever, and out of sentiment only they may follow some rituals without understanding the real purpose, the real significance, because there is no proper understanding of the significance of these rituals or these samskaras from the parampara system. Only in the parampara system, the Vedic understanding is properly handed down. Just like even among so-called Vaishnavas, they still follow the caste system, caste by birth system. It was relevant when there was proper selection of husband, proper selection of a wife. It was relevant. But now it is not relevant when the proper selection is not happening. How can you say simply by being born in a particular family, they are automatically qualified to be trained? How can you say that? It doesn't work. So therefore, Prabhupada corrected this by telling that the training is to give a chance for anybody who is inclined to be trained as a devotee, as a Brahmana, to be given that opportunity, irrespective of which family they are born. And this is what Prabhupada illustrated by going to America and training the so-called Mlechas and Yavanas by giving them a chance to practice Krishna consciousness. Because the chanting of Hare Krishna is very powerful. It can purify anybody from any background. That's what the Shastras say. Chandalopi Dvijashrestha. One who is even born as a Chandala, even may be having some traits of a Asamskrita person, but still, if he is trained up by a pure devotee in Hari Bhakti, then he can become a first-class Brahmana. Possible, that is possible. That's the power of the holy name, of the process of bhakti, especially when somebody is guided by a pure devotee, spiritual master. Then they can be actually trained up. And Prabhupada demonstrated that. So many Westerners who didn't have any training, any culture before coming in contact with Krishna consciousness movement, they became such nice devotees. And in such a short time. Because of the power of the Hare Krishna mantra, the power of the process, and also important thing is it administered by a pure devotee spiritual master. That is also important. Like we see sometimes people from Western countries come to India. They are interested in the Indian culture. They are interested in yoga. But if there is no proper guidance of a pure devotee, they are not able to pick up the right principles of becoming a Brahmana. You see, they sometimes are telling they are doing Hatha Yoga, but they are addicted to, let's say, smoking. So instead of smoking cigarette, they start smoking ganja. And they sometimes are falsely misled to believe, oh, if you're a follower of Shiva, you can smoke ganja. Because Shiva smokes, or Shiva is seen sometimes to be, associating with those people who smoke ganja. So Shiva gives shelter out of his causeless mercy to such fallen, sinful souls. But Shiva is not a ganja smoker. Shiva is a pure devotee. But is misunderstood by people. So they don't have the proper guidance of a pure devotee, spiritual master. Then even if they are interested in yoga, even if they are interested in Indian culture, even if they are interested in spiritual culture of this great country, but still they are misled, they don't get proper guidance. They are not able to become proper Brahmanas by training, even though it's possible to be trained. But they don't have the proper guidance. Therefore, it is important that somebody is inclined, somebody agrees to follow, and they have proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master who's a pure devotee, who's receiving in parampara the proper message of the Vedas and is able to properly guide and administer what these Vedas are teaching. They are properly able to guide the candidates who are interested. Prabhupada did that, and we see the result. So many devotees. So that is the important point. Here, now, you see Diti's position. We have to carefully understand this. What happened? Diti is the wife of a sage, Kashyapa. Kashyapa is trained up in the Vedic culture. He is a rishi, and as is suitable for the practice of such a sage, he is engaged in that evening time, sunset time, Sandhya Kala, Sayam Sandhya, in offering oblations to Vishnu, and he is sitting in meditation, in trance. That is when his wife approaches, Diti. Now Diti is one of 13 daughters of Daksha, who have all got married to Kashyapa. Now Kashyapa, as I mentioned yesterday also, he is one of the Prajapatis. He is meant for increasing the population, the good population. So Kashyapa has married 13 daughters of Daksha. Daksha also is a Prajapati. He is also meant for increasing the population. So he has got several daughters, 16 daughters, out of which 13 were married to Kashyapa. And Kashyapa is one of the Prajapatis again, so he will also produce progeny, offspring, to increase the population and to produce good population. So according to the Vedic injunctions, the husband and wife should not combine at this time, Sandhya Kala. It's not the right time. So Diti has approached her husband at the wrong time. But it is explained that her desire to approach her husband to have children was not wrong. Her desire was not wrong. She is trying to justify why she has approached her husband. So she is giving different reasons. Now she is telling that that she has been married to Kashyapa after Daksha had asked separately each of his daughters whom they would prefer to have as their husband. So Prabhupada explains, free selection of a husband was allowed by the father, but not by free association. If they had to select, they want to express their selection to their father, they don't do it by freely mixing with the would-be husband. No. They indicate their selection to their father indirectly, like it is explained through somebody else, like a grandmother. And they select based on hearing about the great qualities of somebody who is famous for his acts and personality. This is the Krishna book, it is explained, 10th canto, Bhagavatam. Rukmini, when she was young, she heard from saintly persons, and particularly from Narada, about the wonderful qualities of Krishna. After hearing, she decided to select Krishna as her husband. So, selection is done, but it's not by free mixing, no. Not by free association. It is by hearing from great saintly persons about the good qualities, about the nice qualities of great persons who are famous for their proper training, for their proper culture, for their proper behavior, for their proper engagement in specific activities. So, in this way, a girl would express her selection. Of course, this only used to happen in the upper classes. Not everybody is free like that to get an opportunity to select based on hearing. Because Rukmini was the daughter of a king. The king's palace, great saintly persons would visit. And that's how she would get a chance to hear from saintly persons about great other personalities. So Narada, wherever he travels, what does he do? He glorifies the Supreme Lord. So since the Lord has come to perform his Leela in his incarnation as Krishna, and he is in Dwarka, so Narada goes everywhere and glorifies Krishna. So he glorifies Krishna. So he visited Bhishmaka's palace, Rukmini's father's palace. So he glorified Krishna. Rukmini heard about the glories of Krishna, and then she decided to select, because Krishna is the most glorious personality among all the personalities. So naturally, Rukmini was attracted to Krishna because he is the most qualified, most glorious, with so many wonderful qualities. She heard the glories of Krishna from Narada. So she decided to select. Similarly, now Diti is telling Kashyapa that I selected you. It's not that I didn't want to marry you or something like that. No, I selected you. And now, faithfully she has served her husband. She's telling, faithfully we have all served you. And all my other sisters, they've already mother of children. They've all begotten children through their husband. And now she is also desiring to have children. So then she is telling that she is afflicted by desire, and she is already expressed that she is so much affected, like a mad elephant is attacking a banana tree. That is what the example that is given by Diti to Kashyapa. What is the... Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. So she's telling basically, I am unable to wait. So kindly, immediately satisfy my desire. Please bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his plea should never go in vain. So then, now, Maitreya, remember, Maitreya is describing to Vidura. What happened? Why did Hiranyaksha obstruct? If you remember the chapter, the way it's being developed, when Lord appeared as Varaha second time to lift the earth out of the Rasatala region, Suddenly, Hiranyaksha obstructed the Lord, challenged him, and there was a fight. So, Vidura is asking, what is the reason for this fight? What is the reason for this fight? So then there is a history about this Hiranyaksha. So he begins to describe the history of Hiranyaksha, first of all, by describing the pregnancy of Diti in the evening. Diti is the mother of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So describing that the situation which led to Hiranyaksha's birth, he is describing that. So he is telling that when Diti in this condition approached her husband when he was in the middle of offering his oblations and worshipping Vishnu at the Sayam Sandhya time, which is his duty, which is proper for him. So, Diti being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust, therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. Her husband pacified. Prabhupada is explaining very importantly that Kashyapa was engaged in his spiritual activities and he could have refused his wife because it was not the right time, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife. Strongly he did not refuse his wife. He weakly tried to dissuade her only with words, with some words. So it is said here, it appears that Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife because he was not a strong man. So what is the reason he is described as not a strong man? Because he was not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, like compared to Vidura. Vidura is a pure devotee of the Lord. If you remember, Vidura was born as a son of a maidservant. Even though such a birth, but he is a pure devotee. So, being a pure devotee, he was spiritually very, very strong. So, Prabhupada says, no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. Than a devotee of the Lord. Even if one practices restraining the senses from sense gratification, still, one is not very much able to be completely successful unless one is a devotee properly practicing bhakti. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Param drishtva nivartate. What is the verse? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Read the translation, Vedatma. Even though one may try to restrain oneself from sense gratification, the taste for the sense object remains, even though externally one may restrain the senses. So, by developing a higher taste, one is able to completely avoid the sense gratification. By developing higher taste. That higher taste is developed only by the process of bhakti. Only by the process of bhakti. Like many times Prabhupada says that the yogis, they try to control their senses, but unless they take to devotional service, they are not successful. Example, best example is Vishwamitra, who had not practiced bhakti, but was engaged in severe austerities according to the Ashtanga Yoga system. Severe austerities he was engaged in. He was a king. He voluntarily gave up his kingdom, gave up his riches, gave up everything, went to the forest. But he was not able to restrain his senses when Menaka approached him to enjoy, he could not restrain. So, on the other hand, Thakur Haridas, because he was a very strong devotee, so a prostitute was sent to pollute him, but he did not get polluted. Instead, the prostitute became a devotee. This is the influence of a pure devotee. By a pure devotee's influence, even sinful people can become purified of their sinful contamination if they are able to take proper association. So, the example is given of Vishwamitra and Thakur Haridas by Srila Prabhupada in that purport. So, that explains that only a devotee, because of developing a higher taste in Krishna consciousness, that higher taste is the higher taste of pure devotional service. Prabhupada also demonstrated that some of his disciples from a very, very sinful background, but they were able to give up the taste for all such low-class enjoyment by chanting Hare Krishna and purifying their heart. And they developed higher taste, and that's how they restrained. Otherwise, it's not easy. It's not very easy. Somebody addicted to very sinful habits cannot easily give up. At least it's not possible, we can say, in a short time. In a short time, it's very, very difficult. It's almost impossible. So how did they give up in a very short time? Only by the power of pure devotional service. Again, practiced under proper guidance of a pure devotee. So, only by pure devotional service, self-control that is exercised in devotional service. So therefore it is said by Prabhupada, Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. A devotee of the Lord is able to control his senses and successfully engage them in spiritual activity. A non-devotee, even if he attempts to elevate himself to the spiritual platform, there's every chance of fall down. Of course, a non-devotee, by good fortune, while he is practicing self-restraint and trying to follow the process of karma, jnana, or hatha yoga, whatever, if he is fortunate to come in touch with a pure devotee, then he takes up devotional service and very easily is successful in sense control and in making progress on the spiritual path to get fixed up in devotional on the spiritual platform. Otherwise, this fixing up on the oneself on the devotional on the spiritual platform is not possible for anyone except a devotee. Only in devotional service one gets fixed up. Others, as the Bhagavatam describes, Aruhyar Kuchrena Param Padam Tataha Patantyadho Anadruta Yushmadangrayaha. Those who fail to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, they, even if they elevate themselves to the spiritual platform through severe austerities, they are bound to fall down. From that spiritual platform even they can fall down if they don't take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Which is if they don't actually accept the path of pure devotional service. That's the only way to take shelter of Krishna. Pure devotional service. So if they don't take shelter of pure devotional service, don't take shelter of Krishna through pure devotional service, they cannot remain on the spiritual platform. They fall down back into the material world. And that's why Prabhupada says sometimes, these Mayavadis, they do so much austerity, at the end you see them engage in philanthropic activities. Why philanthropic activities? They rejected all material activities as inferior. And then again come back to such material activities. Because they could not sustain themselves on the spiritual platform. Due to not taking up devotional service. Okay, I'll stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।